everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Karen Rechtin. I'm a consultant at Retail Control Systems, and I've been a Counterpoint consultant for over 20 years. And before that, I worked with Counterpoint as a user. So I feel like I've used Counterpoint most of my life, and I understand Counterpoint from the consulting side as well as from the user side. I've done in my life just about everything you can do in retail. So I think I understand where you're coming from, and hopefully some of that experience helps in what we're doing here. I'll just say I'm in a shared internet space, and so far I haven't had internet problems, so we'll just knock wood that we don't have them during this webinar either. I was lucky on my one this morning. I didn't have any problems, but if it slows down or cuts in and out every now and then, just be patient and we should get through this. So today our webinar is on data cleanup and data integrity. And since we all have spare time, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have spare time on our hands now because we don't have our customers in our stores, this is a really good time to take advantage of this opportunity to look at our data and clean up what we have and get rid of what we don't need anymore, and just clean things up so our reporting is better, and in the future our maintenance is easier and we get better information out of our system. So I'm going to start by sharing a Counterpoint screen with you. Okay, so I'm going to start by talking about cleaning and, I guess, normalizing your existing data. So a lot of us have, for example, an item file that lots and lots of people have entered in items different ways over the years, and different people think of categories different ways, and we have vendors associated with items that don't exist anymore, and we just need a lot of, most companies I've worked with anyway, need a lot of cleanup of their item data. So I'm going to start just by talking about the item file, and we'll probably use that for a lot of the examples I'm going to look at. And before you start on doing all of this kind of cleanup, it's a good idea to really think about your data and think about your descriptions and how they should read, and think about your category and your subcategory structure, and think about some profile information you might want to keep on your items, and write up an SOP so that everyone going forward is doing things the same way. And you don't want to go to all this effort and clean up all your data and get everything all tidy and pretty, and then have people come behind you and start putting things in the way they want to instead of the way you want them to. So it's a really good idea. Write up your SOP, write how your descriptions are supposed to be, make sure everyone's on the same page, and get everybody doing their data entry. It's primarily around items, but it can also be customers, and if you're doing notes and things like that. It's just a really good practice to have everybody doing things the same way. Another thing is you can determine what fields you want to require in the system. So right now I'm looking at the item screen, and in this database anyway, our required fields are green. So these are the fields that are basically required by Counterpoint. Now in your system, if it's already been customized, you may also have other fields that are required when you enter information. But if there are fields that you want to require for your business, and you want to make sure that no matter who's entering data, they have to enter into it. For example, tax category. If you charge different types of tax for different items in your state or county, then you may want to require tax category. So we're sure that every item is getting a tax category. And so we can either show you, or we can do it for you and go in and require whatever fields you want to require. And that way, you're sure that you're getting all the information in there that you want. Okay. Before you start doing much data maintenance, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of updates or a lot of deletes and cleanup, you want to make sure you have a good backup of your database. So either a full database backup, or in the case of, for example, deleting vendors, you might want to do an export of the vendor file. Or if you're doing an item deletes, you might want to do an export of the item and the inventory and the vendor item file before you start, just in case you delete something that you don't intend to. So I'm going to start by talking about updating records. And there are ways to update records sort of in the background using SQL scripts where you can do mass updates of records. I'm not going to talk about that. Just know that that's an option if you've got huge mass updates to do and you've got someone in your organization that's comfortable doing SQL script work. Also, it's something that we can do for you if you need. So I'm going to talk about it of things that you can do in Counterpoint on your own and ways that we can go through these updates and cleanups that will make it easier and faster. So right now I'm in the item table. So I went to inventory items and I'm going to put the screen into what's called table view. Right now we're looking at record view. I've got this icon here that looks like spreadsheet, and that will change this into table view. And so when we put this into table view, it basically takes your whole item file and puts it into pretty much a spreadsheet. And when you make changes in table view, you're changing directly to the database. So when you're in the item record and you make a change, you've got to save the record before that change is committed. When you're in table view, anytime that you make any change to it, that's an immediate change to the database. So this is a really, really powerful, really great thing to be able to use. It's also really dangerous because you can inadvertently update things that you don't intend to. So you got to be careful with it, and you don't want to give access to this capability to everybody in your organization, just people that know what they're doing, people that you trust with it. So you can see here that we've got just our basic fields. We've got the ability to use Column Designer, and we can add fields to our, basically our spreadsheet here. So if I right click in one of the column headers and then select Column Designer, I can add whatever other fields I want to my lookup. So I'll just add, let's see, status. So I've added 2 more fields to my spreadsheet here. And then let's say I want to look at all of my items that are from the vendor of Adams. So I'm going to filter my spreadsheet down to just see that. So up here at the top, I've got the icon that looks like a funnel. If I click on that, it gives me my filter options. So here I'm going to select my primary vendor of Adams. And now my spreadsheet is just narrowed down to these particular items, or all the items that come from the vendor Adams. So I can quickly look down this list, and then I can look at the, let's say I want to check and update my category, subcategory. So I can easily look down this list and I can see all my item categories and all my item subcategories. And I can very easily go in there and I can go straight into the field and I can either type in what I want my new subcategory to be, or I can do a lookup and select that subcategory from the list. And then it updates that immediately. Like I said, you don't have to do any saving to it. So this is a great way if you have a price update. You can easily just go down this list and type in your new prices. Seeing these price margin warnings here kind of makes me want to say this is a really good place to go into and look at your margins on your products and quickly see. You might want to look at this and say, oh gosh, why is my margin? Why is it showing me I'm not making my margin on this? Well, you can just hover over it and it will show you what your margin is, what your target margin is, which says 65%. So however this is priced is not getting you your 65% margin. It's just a really easy way, excuse me, it's just a really easy way to look at all the data and quickly update. And then you can add multiple filters to this too. So right now, let's see. I could further filter this and I can just say, I only want to see items from atoms that are in the category of golf. And then I've filtered that even further. So that makes your updating really easy. I also wanted to show you, this is something that a lot of times people don't know you can do, is that there's a copy paste functionality in here where you can update lots of records at a time. And it's not terribly straightforward how to do it. I had to fiddle with it a little bit this morning to get it back in my head exactly how you do it. And I had to write it down actually, so I need to check my notes. But you can select, so let's say here, I'm going to select all these rows and I want to change all of these rows here to have the category of apparel. So I'm going to start here and I'm holding down my shift and arrow and I'm highlighting all of these records. And these are all golf, but this bottom one is apparel. So if I right click in any of these that say golf, well, there we go. And then if I select copy values from the list, here it says you're about to set item category to apparel for the 10 records. Are you sure you want to do this? And so if I say yes, it's going to update all of these to apparel. Now I'm not going to do that because I think some of these subcategories won't update at the same time because they're not associated, but it will automatically update all those. So like I said, a lot of times people are very surprised to learn that we actually do have this copy paste functionality in Counterpoint, which can be really, really helpful. If you're going to change vendors on a whole list of products, that would be a really easy way to do that as well. So that's kind of a fun thing. And that's doing it straight in the table. And you can do that in any table. You can do it in the item table, the customer table, inventory. You can update min maxes, and anything that's in a maintenance screen, you can change to table view and make changes this way. Another way to do changes is to use data interchange. So data interchange allows you to export all the data or a subset of data from a table, modify that in basically a spreadsheet outside of Counterpoint, and then re-import the data in. So to do that, I'll go to data interchange from the main menu. And in a lot of organizations, data interchange is taken off of most people's menus because it's not something that we just want people to have access to. Or a lot of times just export is left on the menu because it's okay to export the data, but we don't want people importing the data back in that aren't sure what they're doing. So if we go to data interchange export, well, that's not good. I can't show you data interchange in this. Should have tested that earlier. My apologies for that. Data interchange allows you to, I have another export function I might be able to show you. And Darlene, I think we had a hand raised if you can figure out how to see the message, please.
Okay, check it out.
Thank you. So this is similar to data interchange. I'll just show you the concept of it here. This is under System Utilities Database Export. And so when we're exporting data, we need to know the table name, and then we'll need to know some of the field names as well. So I'm going to take a step back here, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you how to find the table name and the field names. And again, I'll use the item table. So you can right click in the title bar of the window and select labels as field names, control names. And when you do that, you'll see that the table name is shown up here at the top. And then all the field names are shown down here on the left of each field. And so if you're doing some certain kinds of reporting and in exports, sometimes you need to know what those fields are. So if I go back now to my export, let's say I want to export that item table or some of the data from that item table. I can go down here to find the name of that table, which is IM_item. And then here we have all of our fields are in the item table, going all the way across. And then if we, if we wanted to export just a subset of those items, we can go here to the filter option. And again, let's just say we wanted to do it for all the items from Adams. Going to filter down our list then to just those items down here at the bottom. In this particular export, I'm not going to pick just specific fields, but if you were in data interchange, there's a very easy way to just pick the specific fields that you want to export. And then when I export here, it automatically exports to a folder in our top level Counterpoint directory. If we're in data interchange, we have the ability to select, well, actually up here, we can select where we want it to export to. So I could export it to my desktop, and I could call it Karen's item file. And then it would just export that data wherever I put it. And it's exported by default in a CSV. So if we were now in data interchange, we could go to that CSV file. We can make all of the changes that we wanted in Excel. We could change all the categories or the subcategories or the vendor or whatever. And then we could go back into data interchange and we could do an import. And when we did an import, we would say we wanted to import and update. And when we did that, it would import and it would update the fields that we were changing. And I'm just, because I can't show you this right now, I'm going to put a big asterisk on that import update and saying you need to look at that. You need to make sure you're making the right selections so that you're updating the record with the new fields instead of replacing the record with the entire field, with the entire new record. There are instances where people have gone in and they've selected update to update the record, or I mean, they've selected replace instead of update. And when you do that, very often you wipe out data that you don't intend to. So if you're going to use data interchange and you're not familiar with it, it's really good to practice on a small subset of data or in a practice database until you get the hang of it before you actually start doing big bunches of it in your main database. And we're happy to give you training on it too. It's very quick and easy to do. So that would be data interchange. And then also a lot of times people just use the export functionality just to get data into a spreadsheet because they want to manipulate the data in a spreadsheet for reporting purposes. So those are really the basic tools to modify your data using your filtering, using your updates in table view, and then using data interchange. But it's really good to make sure that all your items have the proper descriptions, that they all have the right category. and then that they have the right subcategory under the category. A lot of times when you start putting your item file in a table view like that, you'll see that a lot of the items have the wrong subcategory attached to them. And so that's, you know, you clean that up and then all of a sudden your reporting starts making sense. Sometimes people will run reports and they're like, well, I don't think that's what my sales really should be. And then you start digging into it and you find out that it's because the category is wrong on a lot of items, or the vendor is wrong, or whatever it is that you're reporting on. And so just putting it in a table view or doing an export and looking at it in a spreadsheet sometimes gives you the information that you need to figure out why your reporting isn't looking quite right. Darlene, did you find the questions?
Yes. Well, Tracy was going to point out using the export import field because of the data interchange issue, which I believe that you did.
Yes.
And then someone had requested, Dorothy had requested a review of the copy and replace functionality.
Sure.
So maybe if we could also share in an email to the attendees the keystrokes, that would be beneficial.
Be glad to.
And then I just got a message from Krista, who said maybe not relevant to this exact session, but we have years worth of history, years worth of inventory in our system. Some of these items we still purchase, but costs have gone up. Is it possible to change the last cost?
Okay. All right. Let me take first, I'll demonstrate the copy paste thing again, and we will send out the keystrokes, and then I'll talk about cost, changing cost, yes. So let me get back to our items and table view.
And then we do have a couple more after that we can address.
Good. Good, I'm glad, because the next part of my discussion will probably only last about 10 minutes, so it'll be good to have some questions. Okay. So you start with, I gotta check my notes. All right, you highlight all the records that you want to change with the one record with the field that you want to change to last. But all these are golf and I want to change them to apparel. So I make sure apparel is the last one that I've highlighted in the list. And then you can do a right click in, I'm changing category here. So right click in any of the other row item category field. And then select copy values. I'll just do it. Yeah, it's not going to run the update because the subcategories aren't valid categories of the apparel, but otherwise it would go ahead and update all those records. So it's nice that it is actually validating the subcategory rather than just overriding the category to be incorrect.
Great.
That is that one.
Okay.
And last cost, let me just talk about last
Sure.
cost a second. So last cost on the item record, well, if I could get out of this, there we go. All right, let me close this, there we go. Okay, so last cost on the item screen is automatically updated by the last cost the last time you posted. So if you have, for example, 10 locations and you receive it at 10 different costs, it's always going to update this on the item record by the last posted cost. If you want to change it at the location, and this one can't be changed. Even if you have the ability, I don't think anyway, even if you have the ability to change protected field or to change protected fields, that's a protected field, it's grayed out. You cannot change that. But if you go into the inventory record, each inventory location carries its own last cost. And that in the inventory record is changeable. So last cost generally should be the last cost you paid when you purchased it. There really shouldn't be any need to manually change it in the location record. And the last cost is just that last cost, unless you value your inventory at last cost and that gets off for some reason. From an inventory valuation standpoint, what counts is, and your costing from a cost of sales standpoint, what really matters is the average cost. So if you want to have any further discussion about the last cost change need, I'd be happy to have that offline.
Okay.
All right. What's next?
Another question, do you ever recommend deleting items that the status is now discontinued or inactive, or is it best to keep them for historical purposes?
Yeah, we're gonna, do we have other questions before I move on?
Yep.
Okay. Because that's kind of the next topic.
Okay, great. Let me see. Okay. When would you use database export versus data interchange export?
Data interchange is just a lot easier, more user-friendly, safer, I think.
Okay.
I mean, from an export standpoint, it doesn't really matter, but from an import standpoint, data interchange import is safer.
Okay. And then can you highlight and delete fields in table view? So for example, maybe the subcategories you would delete first prior to updating the category.
Yeah, you can just click in that field and hit delete and it'll go away.
Okay. And that's it.
Okay, good.
Wait, let me actually scroll down just a little bit. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay, so next I was going to move on to using the utilities in Counterpoint to do some additional cleanup. So under almost every module, so for example, under inventory, we have a utilities. And again, in a lot of places, that's an admin function only, so it may not be on your menu or on everybody's menu. We've got different capabilities, and these capabilities exist for both inventory and customers. We've got the ability to merge items. So merging takes two, let's say you have a duplicate item and you've got sales history and you've got quantity and you've got all that in both of your items. Then we've got the ability to merge and put them together. And when you do that, it's merging one item into another, and it's renumbering all of the history and everything that's out there to whatever the new item number is. So the merge item screen is a little bit confusing because it asks you for a group. The group is just basically a name of this batch. You can use the same name over and over if you want to. You can use the number 1 every time and it doesn't matter. And then a description. What matters is down here at the bottom. What is the from item number? So what is the item we're getting rid of? And what is the new item number? Obviously those don't go together, but they need to be the same item type. So they both have to be inventory. One can't be inventory and one can't be non-inventory. No, non-inventory. They both have to be the same tracking method. So one can't be normal and one can't be gridded. So other than that, I think as long as they're both an inventory item and they're both the same tracking method, you can merge. So when we actually merge these items, the from item is going away and all of its information is merging into the to item. And like I said, all the history, everything will be updated to the to item number. So we all have those in our system where you've got the same 2 or 3 times. So that's a very helpful feature. We have the ability to also renumber an item. So let's say you have an item that's got maybe it's got a barcode number as the item number, and you want to make it an actual item number. Same kind of screen, give it a group number. Want to know what the old item number is, so you pick your item. Put in what the new item number that you want it to be is. And when you click renumber, same thing, it will go out and it will update all of your history. If you've got open purchase orders, it will update everything that's out there with your new item number.
Karen, Nick is asking if that will merge inventory as well.
Yes, it does. And on all of these, you've got the ability to do more than one at a time. So you can do a whole batch. You can keep, entering over and over and over, and it will create a big batch. So when you renumber or merge or whatever, it does them all at the same time. We also have purge inactive items, which I think kind of speaks to the question earlier. So purging inactive items, you always want to preview this before you actually do it and make sure that you're only purging what you want to purge. We all have, especially if you have systems that are old, you might have items that you haven't used for 10 years and they're still in the system, and they clutter up your database, they clutter up your reports, they're in everything that you don't want to see anymore. And so this is your way to go in and get rid of them. So first of all, parameters. It wants to know the last sale cutoff date. So let's say we want to purge any items that haven't had sales since 12/31. Well, 12/31 of 2017. And then there's a checkbox here for purge items never sold and purge active e-commerce items. So that only counts, obviously, if you've got e-commerce. Purge items never sold, that can come into play for items. Let's just say you've just set up 500 new item numbers for items that are coming in for spring, and they don't have any quantity, and they don't have any sales history, and they don't have any other criteria here for purge. If we say purge items never sold, and we have this sold cutoff date, those 500 items that you've just set up that don't have any sales or any activity could potentially get purged. So this, you got to be careful with this checkbox, and that's one of the reasons that you want to preview your items or preview the list before you actually purge. Then you can go in the item tab and you can filter down further. So maybe you only want to purge within a certain category or within a certain vendor, or you only want to do items that have a status of discontinued or discontinued prior to a certain date. So that's where it would come in on your item record of marking things as discontinued or inactive, and then putting the status date of when you made them discontinued or inactive. That's a really good way to start filtering down your list for this purge. So once you get your filters of what you think you want in place, you want to preview, and you want to review your list. The system will not purge anything that has any quantity on hand or has any open activity, has an open purchase order, or anything like that. It's not going to do that. And it could show up in your list, but then it will say some items cannot be purged. And so it might show in the list, but it would not be purged because of those reasons. So once you've gotten your list narrowed down and you're sure that it's right, you can tell the system to purge. And it gives you this list one more time so you can print it out. And when I close my list, it's going to say, are you sure? And giving you that final warning that you want to be sure you know what you're doing here. And then when you do that, they'll be purged from your system. The items are purged, but they're still in your sales history. So if you were to look up a ticket, you would still see the line item information in the ticket. And your sales, like your overall sales, if you were to run a flash sales, all those sales totals would still be in there, but the items are no longer in the system.
Karen, we have a group of questions.
Okay.
Do you want
Oh, I
to
see
kick
that.
those off? Okay. Referencing merge items and the renumber functionality. The question is, what happens to the old item number?
It just disappears.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what we're asking, but yeah, it just goes away. It's no longer in there.
Okay.
So like your ticket history would be updated to the new item. If it were on a purchase order, it would be updated to the new item number.
Okay. How would you suggest troubleshooting error messages in item merge? For example, I often receive the error about units not matching, though both items typically only have one primary unit. Neither of them use alternate units.
Yes. So I've run across that myself. So if you go into the item into alternate units, in one of the alternate unit tabs, there may be grayed out information in fields that are grayed out. So you would want to, and I can help you with this offline if you want, but you can go into those fields, delete the information out of the grayed out fields, and then resave it. And then a lot of times you'll be able to do your merge. It's a weird thing. You wouldn't think that grayed out information would matter, but it seems to in the background. And I can email you about it afterwards and we can look at it if you want.
Okay.
Next one.
Can you elaborate on purge active e-commerce items? Like, when is that used?
Well, I think what it's just telling you is even though it fits all the criteria for purging in Counterpoint, it may still be an active e-commerce item. And if it is, do you want it to purge it or not?
Okay.
So.
Will purging items purge any that have quantity on hand still?
No.
Okay.
No. Any quantity, any commitment, any activity at all, it will not purge.
Okay. If you purge an item, will all of the history be deleted for that item as well?
No. No, it's still in your sales history. Inventory history will be gone, but sales history is not gone.
Okay.
I'll make a note to confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that inventory history goes away. Okay.
Another error message that that is received is a violation of primary key constraint. Do you know what that's about?
We'd have to just see the error because that could be many, many different things.
Okay. And then can you merge with a purged item?
So you would have to. Well, if the item was already purged, you would not be able to merge to it or from it.
Merge with a purged item.
So I would say no.
Okay.
But
if you purge an item, okay. If you purge an item and then down the road another item gets created and uses the same item number, would that cause any issues?
It shouldn't.
Okay.
Shouldn't.
Okay, that's it for now.
The one place I can think that it might matter is because in ticket history, it still has the old description and that kind of information, but as far as current inventory or items or, you know, new ticket history, it would just have the new description with the same item number.
Okay.
But I can confirm that too and answer that offline.
Okay,
Is that good?
that's it.
All right. Okay, one other inventory utility is purge tags. And this is regarding the tag files that are created for receivings and for purchase orders. So you can do a receiving and have it create a tag file that you can print at a later time. Or you can create a purchase order and have it create a tag file that you can print at a later time. And those are set up, those settings are set up in setup, either purchasing or inventory control, whether or not to create these files. A lot of times these files are being created in the background and they're never printed. Nobody ever prints the labels that would be resulting from that. And so these files just sit in the background and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Also, when you actually do print the tags or print the labels, when you're done printing, there's a checkbox or a question that says, do you want to purge the tags? If you say no, they sit out there forever. And so your file of tags gets huge. And sometimes it starts causing confusion when you're printing batches of other tags. So it's good to purge these every now and then if you're not printing at the end of, or if you're not purging at the end of the actual printing. So here we would have to check purge printed tags and then put a cutoff date and purge unprinted tags with a cutoff date. And that will clean out that file. If you purge at the end of every ticket printing, that's not a problem, but I've found that generally that's not the case. So in customer utilities, we have the same thing. We can merge customers, we can renumber customers, and we can purge inactive customers. If we look at purging inactive customers, and right now, during the time that we're in right now, it might not be a time to get rid of customers. We probably want to keep all the customer data that we can, unless you just have old ancient customers that you know are never going to, whoops, that's a merge, that you know are never going to purchase. So our purge inactive customers is just like items. It's just that here it wants to know the last sale date for when they made a purchase. So if you have customers in the system that haven't made a purchase since 2010, maybe you want to get rid of their customer records, but maybe not either. And again, their customer information would still appear in sales history and on the tickets. It just would, their customer record just wouldn't be in the system any longer. Under purchasing utilities, you can renumber vendors. That's about all we have there. So purchasing utilities, and you can renumber vendors. And then under sales history, this is where we can get some biggies. Sales history, utilities. Here we've got purge ticket history and purge settlement history. Purge settlement history is only relevant if you're using CP Gateway, or if in the past you've used CP Gateway, because with Secure Pay now, we don't keep any settlement history in Counterpoint. So you can purge settlement history and it would just be pre-using Secure Pay. That just deletes all the history of all your settled credit card batches. Purging ticket history does just that. So all your sales history tickets, voids, orders, and layaways. Excuse me. You can choose to purge that data. Some companies like to keep their sales data forever. Some companies only keep it for 3 or 5 years. It's just sort of up to you how long you want to do that. And depending on how big your sales history files are. If you choose to do this, I mean, personally, I would do some kind of an export or reporting ahead of time just so you have record of it. But if you're having database size problems, this is one of those files where you can really gain a lot of size in your database by doing a purge. There's also a way, we would have to provide a script for it and would probably want to help you with it. There's a way to purge credit card signatures from your system. So if we were to go to sales history and then view ticket history, if I actually had credit cards on my demo system here, on the payment tab, if I had signatures, you would be able to see the signature in here. And so those are sort of kept in a separate file in Counterpoint, and that file can grow really exponentially huge. And so there is a script that can be run that will remove signatures, and you can put a date cutoff on there. So again, different companies have different feelings about that. Some only keep signatures for over a certain amount. And the reason you want to keep the signature, of course, is for chargeback purposes. So depending on what your chargeback time frame is, potentially, you would want to keep those signatures. Some companies just like to keep them for a year. There's not any hard and fast rule about it. But that's, like I said, that would be something that we would want to help you with if you wanted to do that. Then under system utilities, or system, actually accounting utilities, we've got purge distributions. And for those of you that use the accounting interface portion of Counterpoint, then you would know what the accounting distributions are. It's all the GL distributions that go to your accounting software. Some people actually interface, some people just print a report and then key those figures into their accounting system. Other people are keeping distributions in their system and they're not being used at all. The distribution file also can get really, really big. And so if you've got space problems, it's one that we would want to purge. And again, different companies have different time frames that they want to keep that data, usually through their current fiscal year or maybe a year and a half back. But before you did the purge, again, you have the capability of doing an export of all of the records that you would want to keep for permanent record. You could export to a spreadsheet, you could export to a PDF, you know, different methods of doing that. But anyway, you can purge distributions. How do you want your report to show? And you can keep your report of the purge to PDF as well. Do it by event number range or event date range. So you could just do with a cutoff of 2 years ago or whatever you were doing. And then again, preview it before you actually do the purge. And like I said, that can really free up a whole lot of space if you're having space problems. Then also, if you use the messaging feature in Counterpoint, here we've got system, utilities, and purge messages. So that's only if we're using messaging. And then in time cards, there's also a way to purge old time card data that you're not using anymore. And that's just the normal menu option, time cards, purge time cards. other things we can do is closing out gift cards and store credits. So under system, it's both that work the same way. So I'll just show gift cards. Under system gift cards, we've got closed gift cards. So when you run reports, if you ever do on open gift cards or store credits, even those that have been totally used and closed out are still in the system, still show on your reports, still taking up space. Also, in the case of, depending on how they're set up, if you recollect your gift cards from your customers when they use them up, if they're fully redeemed, they can't be reused again until you close out the first one. So just depending on how your setup is, you may need to close them out. So anyway, closing them out will get them off your reports and out of your database. So we do close gift cards, and then do we want to do fully redeemed, voided, and expired? And then it will create GL distributions in the background for the closeouts. Excuse me. Same thing for store credits. I would also preview those before I actually do the closeout. I've got one more topic, quick topic. So are there any other questions before we go on to that?
Yes, we do have some questions. So
Okay.
if you're looking to shrink your database, is there a way to see the percentage of database used? So for example, percentage of ticket history, percentage of customers, et cetera. Is there anything like that?
I can't tell you how to do that right offhand, but yes, there is. In the, like if we went into SQL Management Studio, yes, we could do that.
Okay. Okay.
So we can take that offline.
So SQL Management Studio. Okay.
Yeah.
If you export and then delete items, does the item disappear from the customer record?
Say that again?
If you export and then delete items, does the item disappear from the customer record? I guess if you were doing a customer lookup of their past purchases, wondering if it's deleted.
The items stay in ticket history.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, if we delete items, they stay in ticket history. So you could look up a customer's purchase history and still see it in there, but it would no longer be in the system.
Got it. And then going back to last cost. So changing the last cost.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to change the last cost in an inventory tab once I unlocked the page, which updated the last cost on the items page. Will this affect the value of the inventory on the analysis report?
I'd have to look at the inventory analysis report.
Okay.
Last cost is by location. So if you've changed it for the location, you know what, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the report.
Okay, we'll send this, we'll respond after. And then one more question that just came in on chat. Can you show us show us a customer merge?
Sure. That's customers, utilities, and merge customers. So again, we've got our group, whatever you want to call it. And then we've got our from customer and our to customer. And so I think they both have to be the same. I think they either both have to be a cash or both have to be an AR. I don't think you can merge one of each. So when we actually do the merge, the from customer disappears and all of their information goes into the to customer. So their sales history, all of that information rolls in. I think if they have different addresses or something like that, I think the to customer record rules in that case. And if that doesn't answer all your questions on that, we can get that after the fact. Send another chat.
All right, I think yep, we're good on questions.
Okay. All right, and my last quick topic was just to talk about other things that if you're going to do data maintenance, and this is sort of more data enhancement than data maintenance, but this is a really good time to go through, and when you're thinking about your items, if there are new ways you want to like profile your items or categorize your items within the item record, we've got your system, it may not be opened up like this, but we've got the ability to put up to like 20 different profiles on items. So if you wanted to go back and basically it's like adding another subcategory or another way to group them together for reporting or sale, promotional purposes, all different things we can do with profiles. And so let's say you want to put maybe a season on your items so that you can put all of your winter items on sale when it gets to be the end of February, or, you know, things like that. Your Halloween items, when it's Halloween's over, you can easily put them on sale, or you can report on just your Halloween items. There's lots of things we can do with profiles. So if there are other ways that you want to look at your data and segment your data for any purpose, this is a really good time to start putting that information in. Same thing with your customers. If you have customers, and let's say you're a gift shop and you sell collectibles, and you know customers are collectors of certain items, you can add profiles and you can put that information in there, or you can put a birth month, or, you know, their favorite color, you know, whatever makes sense in your business for profiles. We've got all of that information that we can collect as well. And then we can do customized mailing, and we can do emails, and if we have Customer Connect, we can do marketing emails based on these things and based on purchase history. So not only is it a good time to clean up, it's a good time to enhance. Maybe you want some item images in your system so that at the register, pictures of some of your items display. It's a great time to get those in there. So like I said, not only cleanup, but enhancement as well, as long as we have this time on our hands right now to do this. It's a curse and a blessing at the same time for this kind of work. So if you've got the time and the manpower to do it and the desire, it's a great opportunity, that's for sure, that we don't ever have when we're busy. These are the kind of things that get pushed off normally and never get done. And so if you can do it now, it's a really good thing. Also, I wanted to make sure everybody knows that online there's searchable Counterpoint help, and it is at www.ncrcounterpointhelp.com. And just so everybody has record of what we talked about today, we'll email out my outline of this, and then that address will be on there as well, that web address. But it's searchable help documentation, and you can find a lot of what you need there. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it.
No, there's no more questions in the chat.
Well, we'll respond offline to the things we've talked about. If you have anything else that comes up, please feel free to contact any of us. And